Only 8% of first-gen college students actually study abroad, and the main reason is money. 84% of students interested in studying abroad say that cost is the reason why they haven't studied abroad. But that doesn't have to be the case for you. Why? Well, today I am super excited. We have an expert study abroad advisor who is also first-gen coming on the show to talk to us about 3 actionable steps we can take to make funding your first-gen travel abroad experience a reality. This video, of course, is part of a series that we've been doing where we are partnering with First Gen Go Global, an organization that celebrates first-gen students traveling abroad. And they've been teaching us different ways on how to study abroad as a first-gen college student. I love helping first and second-gen students succeed in college. So click subscribe, grab your coffee or your tea, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. I am really happy, guys, to introduce you to Natasha. She currently works in global engagement at Santa Clara University and is an expert on how to secure funding for study abroad. Natasha, welcome to the New College Perspective. How are you this morning?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here and just delighted to share my story and help other students, turn their global dreams into a reality.
Yes, and you are definitely going to do that today. Guys, this is going to be a jam-packed episode. Natasha, in your experience, what percentage of students do you find see money as a barrier to travel? And I know, in my experience, money was the main reason why I couldn't travel originally. Can you give us some statistics for that and any thoughts you have on that?
Yeah, so I personally relate to this statistic as well. Being a first-gen college student from the Midwest, low income, I never thought going global would be a reality for me. I didn't even have a passport. So when I started my undergraduate career, I remember thinking I'd love to study abroad, but I'll never be able to afford it. I actually made a Facebook post saying that. And it took me a few years to really muster up that courage to visit the study abroad office and ask questions and figure out if the no I was telling myself was true. Inside Higher Ed published a survey in 2023 that concluded 84% of students say that costs are their primary concern. And at Santa Clara University, 64% of students who studied abroad last year were financial aid recipients. So it's much more common than one might think to see this as a barrier to maybe really believe it. And that's where I want to do some myth busting, that there are other students that are doing this despite those perceived barriers,
Yeah, 84% of students finding money as a barrier to studying abroad is just crazy. And Dr. Janelle was telling us on the previous episode, which I hope you guys can check out, that 8% of first-gen students are going abroad or studying abroad. Everyone else that's first-gen in college is not studying abroad. And so with those combinations, you can see that finances is a huge barrier. And so that is why I'm really excited to have you come and break down the steps that students, first-gen college students, need to take in order to find money to travel. Can you tell us the first step that students need to take in order to start finding money to travel?
Absolutely. So I think the first step, and what I share with my students, is to assess your champions on campus. And so when I say champions, I think sometimes the first people students talk to on campus might be their faculty or academic advisors. But taking that next step to chat with your financial aid office on campus, as well as your study abroad office, that might be referred to as global engagement or something similar, to really do 2 things. The first being assess the financial aid package you might currently have. So financial aid is scholarships, loans, grants that you're using to pay for your experience at your current university. And ask them a few questions, about how that might look and transfer to a global program. And the second champion you really want to connect with is your study abroad office or your global engagement office, because they're going to be the folks who can tell you what kind of programs they offer, the different type of program models, and really work in tandem with the financial aid office to help you figure out which program fits within your budget, fits within your goals, so that you can make this possible.
So finding your champions on campus, because I know sometimes it's hard to book appointments. Do you have any insight on that? On is it better to just show up and say hey, I'm super eager? And are there any tips or tricks with that you find work well with students?
I think that assessing how your campus runs advising can can be really lucrative.
Mhm.
Some campus departments might say, "Hey, like, we do have drop-in hours and come in during these times." And maybe if you
Mhm.
can't make it during those times, perhaps you're in class sending an email that's like, "Hey, I really can't make it during these times. I want to connect with you. Here's when I'm available. Can we connect?"
Mhm.
So some offices do have drop-in hours where you can just drop by. Others might have an appointment system.
Mhm.
So I think an email goes a long way. I know that we're pretty shy with
Yeah.
with email, but an email can go a
Mhm.
really long way of just saying, I'm
Mhm.
super interested in learning more. Here's the where I'm at in the process. The folks that work there can point you in the right direction, right, and set you up with that. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out to introduce yourself and to say, this is
Yes.
something I want to explore.
This is perfect. And I love on this show, what we really strive is to give like actionable tips. And so you mentioned going into these meetings with some of our champions that you talked about. I love to get even more specific. Can you talk to us about what questions you actually recommend our students to ask once they get that meeting, confirmed?
Yes. I personally think it's more helpful to meet with your study abroad office first and then your
Okay.
financial aid office. So I guess I'll start there. The reason being is that your study abroad office will know the ins and outs of the programming that's offered on your campus because every
Okay.
university's program offerings are structured vastly different. My
Hmm.
alma mater at the University of South Alabama had very different program models than Santa Clara
Hmm.
University does. And so,
Hmm.
what I'm talking
Hmm.
about when I say program models is they might have direct relationships with local universities abroad. These are more known as either direct enroll programs or exchange programs.
Okay.
Exchange programs are where a university abroad will send a certain number of students to your campus, and then your campus sends some of your students to their campus. And so there's an
Hmm.
exchange balance. The other type of program models that exist can be through what's called program providers, such as IES abroad, CIS abroad, Arcadia abroad. These program providers typically either have satellite campuses in different places around the world, or they
Hmm.
have direct partnerships with local universities. And so your campus might have a partnership with them and they structure the program for you. And
Okay.
essentially, depending on the partnerships that your campus has, some of those program models will be more affordable than others. And it really just depends on your specific campus. And there could be special funding for the program model that they're well known for, that they have that strong
Hmm.
partnership that you may not know about. So, for example, SEU has a exchange with Sophia University in Tokyo, Japan. And last summer,
Wow.
they gave our students a scholarship that covered the entire portion of their tuition there over the summer
Wow.
because of that partnership, right?
Mhm.
So I recommend going into your study abroad office and ask them, hey, what are the different types of program models? What are the
Mm.
differences between those program models? And are there some specific funding that's kind of tied to those different program models? So ask them what the program models are and ask them to explain the differences too. Because I'll say the other thing that makes program models unique, in addition to some of the extra funding that might be there, is the experience you're going to have on the ground. And some program models are going to allow you to interact more with locals and other international students than others. Some program models might be structured to be more in line with the academic culture you're used to in the US. And by academic culture, what I mean is in the US, we are used to constantly being assessed for our work, and so much emphasis is placed on GPA. And so we're assessed for showing up to class. We're assessed for our homework assignments, we turn in for our midterm, for our final, and that ends up being our end grade. All of those things combined are the end grade. Well, some academic cultures abroad might require a great deal of independence where they're not tracking your attendance. They're not tracking several assignments. And so your whole grade might rely on a final exam at the end of the
Mhm.
term, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, no,
mhm,
I definitely I've seen that difference. Like some places they're all about rote memorization. And if
mhm.
that's not your style, you're like, "Oh my goodness, what have I gotten into?"
Yeah.
And so do you suggest like students we're talking first about their study abroad office going there first. Do you suggest they kind of go in and just ask what's available or do you think they should say, "Hey, I would like to study in this country and I would like a program that does more handholding. Is it better to, as a first gen student, to ask for the whole lay of the land or go in and say, hey, I would like some more guardrails in the
Mm.
program that I'm trying to pursue? What are your thoughts
I,
on that?
I think doing a personal assessment of where you might be more comfortable or what your goals are
Mhm.
for a program can be really helpful. But I also know that sometimes it's hard to do that personal assessment because you don't know
Mhm.
what you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
Uh,
true.
so there can be such anxiety of being like, oh, I have to come in with a
Yeah.
pre-built question and ask.
Plan. Yeah.
Well, I personally think it's more helpful to treat your first visit with your study abroad office as a discovery session. Treat it as a discovery session and just say, I learned that there's different types of program models and that it can be different on every campus. What makes our campus unique? What are the program models we have? How are they different?
Yeah. No, I think that's good. Like kind of low stakes, just going in like, hey, I want to learn. I want to hear
Mhm,
what's available. Okay.
mhm.
So we have our student. They have already gone to their study abroad office. They have all this information. Now they go to the financial aid office. What
Mhm.
questions should they be asking there? Like specific questions?
Yes. So a good question to start with is, can my current financial aid be applied to a global program?
Okay.
And your study abroad office might know the answer to that question. If they
Mhm.
don't, financial aid would be the next place. The second question I recommend asking is, are there limits on how my financial aid can be used for global programs?
Okay.
So your financial aid may be able to be applied to some program model, but not another one. Or
Mhm.
maybe you can participate in programs that are affiliated with your university, but if you try to go on a program that's not affiliated with
Yes.
your university, then your financial aid wouldn't apply. That's a big thing at Santa
Mhm.
Clara. The reality is there's thousands of study and intern abroad programs out there, and your
Yeah.
campus might not be associated or affiliated with all of them. So asking what the limits
Yes.
are and which ones they can apply to, I think is super important. Kind of following up to that question is, will my aid package change if I study abroad over the summer or for a semester or even an academic year?
Mm,
So the
okay.
length of time that you're abroad,
Yeah.
depending on your campus structure, can be really important for that financial aid package.
Mhm.
And now a lot of campuses, I think, over the past couple of years, have to abide by what's called satisfactory academic progress or SAP.
Oh, okay. Tell us,
Um,
what is this? What is SAP?
so
Doesn't
to
come from a
my
tree, right?
So, to my understanding, SAP is basically like rules or regulations
Uh-huh.
about students needing to continue making progress in their degree in order to stay eligible to receive their financial aid
Okay.
package.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Mhm. Mhm.
So I think many times that means making sure you're taking a certain number of major or minor requirements every
Okay.
term and not dipping below that. So a good question for that is, how does studying abroad impact my satisfactory academic progress or SAP? Yeah, and my eligibility for that. What do I need to prioritize, right? In terms of course planning is specifically what you're aiming to answer there. I think another big question, because we don't think about this as we're preliminarily planning, is like, when's my financial aid going to be dispersed?
Yes. Will I be broke? Will I be on the
Yeah.
tarmac? Like
What?
waiting. I think I had someone come on the show that was just like, the money didn't come through until the very last minute. And you're just like, oh my goodness, that's so
Mhm.
stressful.
Yeah. And is it gonna be dispersed? Are you paying your tuition and program fees directly through your campus, payment system? Is it
Yeah.
gonna follow
Mhm.
the normal kind of disbursement? Or is it, you get
Mhm.
dispersed that via direct deposit and then you're responsible for paying the program
Mhm.
directly? So just trying to keep yourself organized so that you're not in a situation
Yeah.
where you're like, oh, I'm not getting this until
Yes.
this time. And what am I gonna do? I'm having to scramble and find this money last
Yes.
minute so that I can pay it in
You're like,
advance. And
it's
then the last question to ask both your study abroad office and your financial aid office is just, are there additional financial aid opportunities I should know
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
related to study abroad or not? When I studied abroad, I was able to take advantage of what's called a Parent Plus loan.
Oh,
I needed
mhm.
some additional kind of coverage there for myself.
Mhm.
And so my financial aid office was like, hey, have you heard of the Parent Plus loan? Um, So
Yeah.
anyways, asking both your study abroad office because they're going to know about study abroad specific scholarships they
Mhm,
connect you with. And then also asking the financial aid office because I think it's really important to think
mhm.
about your contingency plan, you know?
Hmm.
Okay,
Tell us
like
more. Yeah.
I'm getting this financial aid package and I know this is how it's going to transfer to a
Mhm,
program, but I also want to apply for scholarships, you know?
mhm,
If I don't get that
mhm.
scholarship money, and I've already committed to a program, like what's that gonna look like for me? What's my
Yeah.
backup plan to kind of fill those gaps?
Yeah, no, I think this is really good, Natasha, like breaking it down on like the questions you need to ask. And so once the student has all of these questions, okay, I've gone to my financial aid office, I've gotten this, I've gone to study abroad, I've gotten this. What should students do next? What should our first year students do next?
I do think that your next step, if you haven't selected a program, is
Hmm.
to select a program. And
We hope.
in order to do that, I really did want to talk about scholarships, but maybe it makes a little bit more sense to kind of talk about like personal needs assessment
Yeah,
and
let's
the
do that.
goal
Yeah.
actually,
Hmm.
because I think that's the more linear
Yes.
trajectory
Yes.
to follow.
Yes. Yes.
Um, just because you can't typically apply for scholarships until you're accepted into a program. So next
Yes.
step would be identifying the programs you actually want to apply for that align with your
Mm.
needs and also
Mhm.
align with your goals. All of us are unique individuals with unique
Yes.
circumstances. We're a lot
Yes.
different than our friends. We might share some things, and then they're
Yeah.
different things. So I think it's really important to think about what your practical needs are to make a global program work for you. So, for
Mm.
example, I know the program I needed to choose had to be during the
Mhm.
summer term because I worked
Mhm.
two jobs at the time to support
Yep.
myself. And
Mhm.
taking a few weeks off of work after the savings I earned from working some extra shifts was more
Mhm.
feasible for me than not working for an entire semester or
Yes.
academic year. As much as I would have
Mhm.
loved to study abroad for that long, it just wasn't in the cards for me at that time.
Yeah.
I couldn't be abroad longer than a few weeks because I had pets I
Mhm.
was responsible for, bills at
Yep.
home, like a card
Mhm.
payment, and just
Yep.
realistically, I wouldn't be able to afford rent back home for that length of time in addition to program costs. So do a personal needs assessment where it's just like, where am I at in my life? You know, what are my responsibilities? Because that's going to help you think about the term of a program and get you in a direction where it's like, okay, I know summer's going to work for best for me, so I'm going to explore the summer programs. Or hey, I don't have as many responsibilities during the academic year, and I do want to go abroad for as long as I possibly can. So I'm going to start looking at the semester or year long programs if those are offered at your campus. So do a practical needs, personal needs assessment. I would say is the next step, and that's something you can do on your own by just thinking about what are my responsibilities, what kind of responsibilities am I going to have to still kind of take care of even while I'm abroad,
Yeah.
and which ones can I table?
During this process, I feel like sometimes there's that no, our nowhere comes up that says, okay, I really it just seems like there's so many personal responsibilities, so many needs. Like maybe I can't do this at all. How would you suggest students kind of overcome that when
Mm.
they're going through this assessment? Because this is a barrier that definitely, we talk about the financial stuff, but also like there's just so much on my plate. How do I squeeze this in?
Uh,
Any insight or tips on how to overcome that inner knower that you might have during this part of the process?
What I tell my students and advising is there's
Hmm.
going to be so much in this world, so many people, so many just messages that are telling you no.
Hmm.
And I feel like that inner no is coming from those
Hmm.
kind of things. And it can also come from family too, because they might be afraid. Like that's really common for first gen students. And I remember my mom telling me, "Hey, why do you want to go there? It's dangerous."
Exactly.
I kind of have to be like, "Okay, fine." So I just tell my students, there's going to be so many things telling you no. Don't be that. Don't stand in your own way. You know, like I told myself no for 4 years. I was a transfer student. Like, not only was I first gen, I transferred universities, and I told myself no. Like, it took me 4 years to develop the courage and the confidence to say, you know what? Yes, I told myself no, but do I know that this is true? Do I know that this is really no? Have I done the work to investigate whether this is actually a no? And when I asked myself that question, the answer was, I haven't done the work yet. So why am I telling myself no? You know?
Yes. Yes, yes. Yeah, no, doing the work, going through actually, instead of it just being in your mind of no, okay, is it really no? Go through the process and to see if you really don't have the money. Did you
Yeah.
apply to all of the opportunities? Did you see what the actual airfare cost
Yeah.
for this versus
Mhm.
just saying, oh, it's going to cost a lot? Maybe there's a deal going on. You never know. But going through that process, you might unearth some opportunities and some help along the way.
Yeah.
So you're saying we do a personal assessment, and then we should be looking at like additional costs, you think, or like what other things do you think people should be doing at this time as they're assessing which program they should be selecting?
So I do think thinking about your goals is important, and we can chat about that a little bit later of how
Yeah.
to do that. I think the other is just do your beginning research of the scholarships that are available, because I think that that can help you combat your no, is
Okay.
learning which scholarships you're eligible for and when the timeline
Okay.
is to apply and kind of what they're looking for.
Okay.
And so, kind of after you've already spoken with your financial aid office and your study abroad office, you'll kind of know, like, do the different program models have some funding things I don't know about? So then it's time to look into the specific programs themselves. Do they offer any scholarships or grants or kind of aid? A lot of the times, program providers such as IES Abroad will offer their students aid. And you just need to get the application in by a certain time. So there's campus scholarships, there's like program specific scholarships, and there's national scholarships that you can apply for. So absolutely apply for national scholarships. Believe in yourself, because I know how easy it is to just say, well, there's so many students that must be applying to this scholarship. I'm not even going to try. Try. Like, you don't lose anything through trying. If anything, you gain more clarity about yourself, where you're at in your degree, why this is important to you. So you gain that clarity that may not be immediately available to you right away. So do apply. You have nothing to lose. Many scholarship review committees care less about how well you write and more about your own lived experiences and what goals you have. So when you spend time reflecting on these things, which are personal and unique to you, you'll write powerful essays that stand out, because I know that that's also the writing process itself. I think for so many first generation college students, we may or may not have the confidence in ourselves and our story that who we are and what we're doing matters, but we do matter. Um, and it's not about like performing and writing this beautiful essay that's going to get you into Stanford or one of these Ivy Leagues. Like it's about just putting into perspective your journey and where you're at and why you want to go global in the first place. You know, so some of the national scholarships I really recommend students look into, first and foremost being the Fund for Education Abroad. Um, yes, so, what's really nice about the Fund for Education Abroad is that they have many different scholarships you can apply for things tied to identity, merit, et cetera, et cetera. And so they have one scholarship application where they'll consider you for each and every scholarship that they have off of that one scholarship application. So, I would say, when it comes to effort, only doing one application and being considered for so many is a super great thing. So Fund for Education Abroad, that is a bunch of folks from the field of international education, because we realize how important it is to get underrepresented groups abroad that are finding the funding to help fund you. So these are some more of your champions behind the scene. So another great national scholarship, if you're this is more country specific or region specific, that you could look into if you're wanting to study abroad in Asia, is the Freeman-Asia Award. That's another really wonderful scholarship to look into, specifically if you're looking into studying abroad in Asia. And then I've been working with all of my students applying for the Gilman, so I can't get on this podcast and not talk about the Benjamin A. Gilman Award.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. Yes. We had somebody come on and talk about it too. So this is
but
awesome. Tell us more.
yes. So that'll be good. You can do a deep dive, but the Benjamin A. Gilman Award offers kind of the award itself and then several other awards, so that you can be awarded for up to $8,000 for your study abroad opportunity. And so the Benjamin A. Gilman is funded through the U.S. government.
Mhm.
And really their aim is to help this mutual exchange and understanding.
Mm.
The Gilman and other awards like Fulbright came about after World War II. Really
Okay.
when the world was like, hey, we
Yeah.
need to all understand ourselves better because
Yep.
we don't want to end up in the situation again.
Hmm.
So that at the heart of it is kind of where it was, wanting to do this and engage in this mutual exchange. And so for Benjamin A. Gilman right now, if you are a Pell Grant recipient, you could be eligible
Oh,
for the award.
okay.
Um, they also, so part of the funding they give outside of the general award is a STEM. They have a supplemental STEM essay that you can write. So if you are a STEM
Oh,
student, you could get up an additional $1,000 if you're doing research abroad.
okay.
They also have a critical language scholarship. So they have a bunch of critical languages on their website. And if
Okay.
you apply for the critical language scholarship where you're studying that language while you're abroad in the country that speaks that language, you
Yeah.
could win up to $3,000. And then there is just the General Gilman Award. And then there's also the Gilman McCain. So the Gilman McCain
Okay.
Award is if your family was part of the military in the past, you can apply and get up to $5,000. So I know that
Mhm.
some people are involved in what's called Rotary groups, and Rotary groups typically have
Oh.
funding for students to study abroad. There's the Boren Awards, which the Boren Awards are similar to the Gilman, the fact that
Mhm.
they're wanting to do some mutual exchange, although I think that's more tailored to students who maybe want to have a career in international relations,
Mhm.
whereas the
Mhm.
Gilman's not. You can kind of be any major and not have to commit to working for the government for a certain period of time. But yeah, there are so many out there, and your study abroad office can help you point you in the right direction because we have a list of these things. So.
Yeah, no, you already, this was like a lot. And I know, like, sometimes when I'm talking to students about studying abroad, so we have these programs, but then I think you talked a little bit about it. Like, there's other programs where they have scholarships themselves. I think that's like
Mhm.
IES abroad.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about like how that process works or
Mm.
some other programs that are kind of similar in that bucket?
Yeah. So programs like I that are run through IS Abroad, CIS Abroad, Arcadia Abroad are what's called program providers. So that's the
Okay.
term in the field that they're referred to, and they actually organize specific programs and then partner with your campus university. So in order to be eligible
Okay.
for their awards, you have to be participating in their program.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing, and every program provider is gonna have a different awards that they can give you.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
can be part of your program selection when you're comparing is
Mhm.
who has more age
Yes. Yes.
than
Yes.
the other,
Let me add that
because
to the
I need to
question
get as much
list.
as I can. Um, yeah. And so they typically have their own scholarship application where you'll like write a little essay maybe or just,
Mhm.
explain why your financial need or what have you. But you typically can't do that unless you're participating in their program. So you do have to be participating in the program. Whereas with national scholarships, you could be participating in any program.
Mhm. Mhm. I think this is really helpful, like seeing the structure
Mhm.
of what opportunities are out there. And I so wish I had this when I was in college. Oh my
I
goodness.
do
I so
too.
wish. I just thought like I just needed to come up with money. And I was like, I have no money. So this is going to be a really difficult thing. I think I ended up having to like raise like asking people for money. It was
Yes.
we got all the way down to different needing different help in different ways. But okay, what I wanted to talk about or also remind our students is that try to start early
Yes.
when applying. I find that a lot of students kind of maybe it's because you kind of get nervous. You're like, oh, I don't know if I can really do it. You wait, and then I usually receive like a flurry of text messages like, Jericho, what program? I didn't get into this
Mhm.
one. What should I do? What should I do? I was just like, oh man, if we had applied early, we would have had more
Yeah.
opportunities to see what was out there and get as much money. So that's my piece of advice is to apply early. Okay.
I'm
The
so glad you
final step.
said that, Jerica. Can
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
can I jump in
Yeah,
real
go
quick?
ahead. Yeah, jump
So
in.
when we say early, okay, this means you start your study abroad planning maybe 6 months to a year in advance.
Ooh. Oh, wow. This is good.
I would say.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm,
because that's going to give you time to do all of your myth busting that you need to work through, right? Because we're telling
mhm,
ourselves we can't do it. That means
mhm,
that you're going to have time to meet with your academic advisor and your study abroad office to talk about course planning and
mhm,
program
mhm,
selection. You're going to have the time
mhm,
to look into the funding
mhm,
opportunities, and you're going to
mhm.
know when the deadlines are so that you can organize all of this because you're also doing everything on
Yeah.
your university, right? You're
You're
planning
working.
all of it.
Yeah.
You don't get to set this down and then
Yep.
focus on all of this. So it's going to help you pace better and not
Mhm.
If you do wait until the last minute, the opportunity can pass you by,
Yes.
right? So I think start asking these questions, meeting with your financial aid office, your study abroad office,
Mhm,
doing some program selection,
mhm.
6 months to a year in advance. The earlier you get started, the better, and you're going to be so much less stressed.
Yes, yes. This is good. This is good. I need to put this up. 6 months to a year. I say a
Mhm,
year, especially
mhm,
because, like you said, there's so many things you have to overcome. Can
yeah.
you talk to us a little bit about we started talking about like assessing the programs,
Yes. Mhm,
maybe cost of living
mhm,
or crowdsourcing, some other things that students should be thinking about in this process before we
mhm.
get to the last part.
Yes. So, in that personal needs assessment that I was talking about earlier, and like through your scholarship discovery and your financial aid discovery, you want to think about any out of pocket expenses. We also call it additional costs, right? So, typically with global programs, there'll be tuition that you're paying and then program fees. And those program fees may cover specific things. So that can be kind of how you're comparing the programs too. Sometimes in the program fees, they cover meals or your housing while you're there or in country transportation, right? So that can be one thing that you're using to compare the programs is what did their program fees that you have to pay cover?
Hmm.
So you're already
Hmm.
paying
Yeah.
it. What is it going towards?
Yes,
Um,
exactly. It's going towards nothing. You're like, wait, no, can't pick
if
that program.
whatever the program fees are not covering, those are going to be out of pocket expenses that you're not
Mhm,
going to typically be able to use your financial aid to cover and
mhm,
or your scholarship. So some scholarships
mhm,
will allow you to they might disperse that money directly to you and allow
mhm,
you to use that for airfare and
mhm,
meals while abroad and transportation and things like that, but they might not,
mhm,
right? So that's where you're kind of doing the research and investigating how each thing is different and
mhm.
kind of what you would get out of it and then just making a budget, right? Sitting down
Ooh,
and it doesn't
okay.
matter if you're writing it down on a piece of paper or maybe you really
Hmm,
like using Google Sheets or Excel or,
mhm,
use it as a professional development opportunity to learn how to
mhm.
use those things. Writing out, okay, if I go on this program, the tuition costs this much, the program fees are this much, and this is what it's covering. So everything else that I need
Mhm.
to support myself while abroad I'm gonna list here as the out of pocket expenses. So I need to
Yes.
either save up money or, if I get this scholarship, it's gonna cover
Mhm.
this. So out of pocket expenses just overall can look like your airfare. So your flights to the country and back to
Okay.
the United States or any other
Mhm,
independent travel you might want to do while abroad, your meals.
mhm.
It's not as
Hmm,
common when you go abroad for universities to have meal plans. That's very much
okay.
like a US thing.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Some might, but it's more common for students in these countries to cook on their own at home.
Oh, wow.
Some of
Okay.
them, some of them may have meals, and some of them might not. Right? It'll depend on the program model.
Mhm.
Any in-country transportation, right? If you need to take the bus to
Okay.
class, if you need to take the train, what have you. And also the big, which I think you're going to have another episode talking about this, but your immigration costs. So
Yes,
your
yes,
passport, if you don't
yes.
already have one, passports are
Mhm,
typically about $150 if that doesn't go
mhm.
up. And then
Yeah.
if you need a visa or residence permit to actually
Mhm,
enter the country you're going to visit there and study there, that's going to be an
mhm,
out of pocket expense, right? So starting to think about what those out of pocket expenses might be. If you're getting anxious about it and you're just like,
mhm.
am I thinking of everything? That's when
Yeah.
you go back to your study abroad office and be like, I'm working on my budget.
Yes.
Here's what I have so far. What am I missing?
Mhm,
What
mhm.
else is
Yeah.
like a common thing? Mhm.
Do you have like a sample budget? I don't know, like in all of your
We
maybe that
do. So
that
at the U, and your campus might have one too, but I can certainly
okay.
share ours. Santa Clara
Yeah.
University has a budget sheet that opens in Google Excel, Google Sheets. And that's we have a partnership actually. SU has a partnership with our financial aid office where students can request a financial aid estimate and it'll be sent
Oh,
to our
such a good
financial aid
idea.
office that we refer to as One Stop. And One Stop kind of does the tuition and program fees part in
Mhm.
their financial aid package at the university and then sends it back to the student. And then the student can use that budget with the things
Yes.
that were already pre filled out to continue
Yes.
budgeting. Your campus may or may not have a resource like that. So
Mhm.
I promise to share it with Jerica so that you can use the
Yeah.
one that we have because we don't mind
Yay.
sharing. And I think it's super helpful.
Yeah, I think like sometimes, you know, like you said, it might not be a resource available at the university level, or we have listeners that are actually in community college, right? And
Mhm.
that may not be a resource, but they still want to travel. And that's why we want to get that number from 8% first gen travel students traveling up at least to 15. Like let's
Yes,
let's
we can
make it
do
to
it.
15, 16. Yes, yes. Okay, so another important piece of this process of getting money as a first gen student or looking at the financial aspects of traveling as a first gen student abroad is making sure when you're applying to these various opportunities that your travel goal, your reason for travel is very clear. I think we talked a little
Yes.
bit about like you have to write essays, right? And so if you're just like, you know what, I want to travel abroad because I just want to have some fun and see the sights, you're definitely not going to get any money, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's not what we want for you. So, can you talk a little bit about how first gen students should think about and develop their first gen study abroad goals for the
Hmm.
various applications so they can get selected for the
Hmm.
overseas opportunities and funding?
Hmm. So, scholarship review committees typically want to hear how a global program is going to contribute to your personal, professional, and academic goals.
Okay.
So, I just want to let you know sometimes those goals may be clear to you from the start,
Mm-hmm.
and you really know what you want and what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Or it might be the travel piece that's getting you in the door
Yeah.
and inspiring you, which that's fine too. That was certainly the case for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then when I spent the time reflecting on why that was important to me and why I wanted to travel
Mm-hmm.
and comparing the programs, your goals might develop as you're comparing those programs and learning what each program offers
Mm.
that and
Mhm,
tying that into your own lived experience. So I very much
mhm,
didn't have super clear goals from the start, but it did
mhm,
develop as I started doing that deep reflection.
mhm.
So some common goal examples can include like wanting to better understand social issues and world events. That was super important
Yes.
to me. So I
So
came from a
good. Yeah.
community where we didn't really talk about those things,
Mhm,
but I was witnessing, everything that's
mhm,
happening in the world. And I was like, I don't really understand this, but I want
mhm,
to,
mhm, mhm, mhm,
that can be a
mhm.
goal. Increasing your academic performance, research, or critical thinking skills. Learning to adapt to new situations or unfamiliar systems. Maybe you have a goal to work, in global
Yeah.
setting, you know, that can really help you. Studying abroad can help you kind of learn how to navigate those cultural differences and really relate to more people than the people that you grew up around. Learning a new language or building on an already existing language
Yes.
skill set you have,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So there are I forget the percentage, but very few United States citizens can speak more than one language.
Yep.
I think learning a new language can be an incredibly lucrative goal to
Yes.
prioritize during your undergraduate degree, even if you don't
Mhm.
study abroad, but especially if you study abroad, because you're actually going to be studying in the language and immerse yourself, and you're going to get much farther learning
Yes.
that language. So I do have to tell you, like that can be a career professional development goal.
Yeah.
Um, your goals also don't have to be so grand either. It can be just wanting to become more independent and confident in yourself or like build an international network and boost your resume. So there are many, many valid goals. Whatever is true
Yeah.
to you is what you want to write about. Many of us become so anxious when it comes to applying
Mhm.
for scholarships, really, because it can feel like applying for college admissions all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that stress does cause self-doubt, as we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
my biggest piece of advice for all of you is just know that you're worthy of a global
Yes.
experience if you want to
Yes.
if you want to pursue it. Maybe you don't want to, and that's also okay. Okay.
Yes.
But if you want to, you are worthy. And
Yeah.
the key strategy when it comes to scholarship applications is to be true to yourself, use your
Yes.
campus resource, and invest the time into the scholarship
Yes.
application. Okay. I know that we're involved in so many different things in our lives. We're balancing
Mhm.
so many different responsibilities.
Mhm.
But if it's important to you, you have to invest the time. So that's where I think doing the 6 months to a year starting
Yeah.
place can be great. Well, if you're starting later, I don't want that to discourage you though either. So
Yeah, yeah, because you can definitely get into an opportunity later for
yeah.
sure. And I see here, Natasha, you just have so many awesome resources. I want to pull up one of the worksheets
Yeah.
and kind of go through an example with our students.
This is a worksheet I developed to help students find the program that works for them, but I think you could
Mhm,
easily use it for scholarship applications too.
mhm,
So, the first page of this worksheet really is to start brainstorming your goals. Because again, that can be so anxiety inducing in
mhm,
and of
mhm.
itself because you're just like, I don't have anything good enough to write down. Yes, you do.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to walk you through kind of what I did for this. I didn't have this cool worksheet though.
Yeah.
So the first time I studied abroad, I was a transfer student, a fresh transfer student. I went
Mhm,
to Northern Kentucky University, transferred to the University of South Alabama. And as a transfer student, I still needed to catch up on some of the core requirements that USA was requiring of me, one
mhm.
being the core science requirement. And so I
Okay.
knew that that was my academic goal. So it can be something
Mm.
that simple as I still need this type of academic credit in my
Mm.
degree
Yes.
specifically. So
Yes.
I want to try to see if I can find a program that's prioritizing that.
Mhm,
It can be for core. It can also be for your major or minor requirements.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm,
I think other good academic goals can be wanting to develop research skills or wanting to
mm,
gain further experience into your specific line of study, which I'll talk about
mhm,
in a second example. But okay. So first goal, first time studying abroad was fulfill that core science requirement. My personal goal at that time, being from Ohio and then later
mhm.
living in Alabama, was to visit an area of the world that was going to prioritize the environment and sustainable practices.
Mm.
Thankfully, where I'm from, Cincinnati, is prioritizing the environment now, but growing up,
Mhm,
it didn't. Like, I did not
mhm.
see this a lot. And then when I went to Alabama, I was just like, come on, we could be doing more. We have so many beautiful, like, nature around us. Why are
Yes.
we? So I wanted to go somewhere where they did care about that. That was a value that
Mhm,
they had. I wanted to
mhm.
learn from them and experience the natural world. I loved being outdoors. I loved going kayaking. I loved going
Mm.
hiking. And I'm like, how cool would it be to study abroad and be in nature rather than just learning from a book, which I am a
Yes.
bookworm. I do love learning from a book, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
experiential learning does something totally different. It helps you get
Mhm.
where you want to be so much faster. So those were my
Exactly.
personal goals. My professional goal at that point was just I was a criminal justice major at the time. I really didn't know what I was doing when I went into school to begin with. So I picked
Mhm,
this major and I am grateful because I learned so much in that. But I needed to learn more about myself so I could begin to understand what I actually wanted to do post
mhm,
graduation career wise.
mhm,
I mean, it
mhm.
was changing, over my entire undergraduate degree. So that was my professional goal was just to do this experience and to learn more about how I can
Mm.
connect all the things that I
Mhm.
care about, nature, eventually politics, I'm very
Yeah.
much a humanities student, wanting to see where I could take that. So I ended up going to Costa Rica for that reason. Because of all of those goals and the program
Ah.
options available to me, I studied abroad
Mhm.
in Costa Rica and was able to explore the rainforests and learn a lot about science as a humanities major, which I don't think I want to do that again.
Yeah,
But it
yeah,
was such a
exactly.
cool thing I would have been exposed to. Uh, you know, I also want to show an example of the second time I went abroad, just because I want to give
Oh,
you
yeah, this is
context
good.
about how your goals can change over time.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Because you might look at study abroad one year, not go, or maybe you do go. And then the next year, you're a totally different person, right? Because life and
Yes,
your
yes,
goals change. Goals
yes.
naturally change. Okay. That's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing about them. Okay.
Yes.
So if I were using this worksheet, the second time I went abroad, my academic goal at that point, when I got back from abroad the first time, I changed my major from criminal justice to political science. And then I was minoring in criminal justice because I did all that work and I'm not getting rid of that work
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
international studies. Okay. So at this point, I
Oh.
needed to fulfill upper division elective credit for political science. So that was academic goal number two,
Mhm.
fulfilling those upper div major electives that I needed. My professional goal, specifically at this time, was in political science. There's four branches of political science, and the one I'm most
Mm.
passionate about is comparative politics. So I wanted to further
And
develop my expertise in comparative politics. So I was like, I want a
okay.
program that prioritizes these two things
Uh-huh.
so that I can learn and grow. And then my personal goal really at this point was to visit an area of the world that was going to allow me to examine how polarization was impacting other countries around the globe. I was
Mm.
witnessing how it was
Mhm,
impacting the US, and I wanted to
mhm.
apply that to that global context, that comparative politics lens. And I
Yeah.
also wanted to explore like modern revolutions in the 20th century.
Yes.
I wanted to look into citizen resistance
Mhm.
movements. And so through all of that reflection, I ended up picking a program in Eastern Europe where I was able to accomplish
Yes.
all of those things. So yeah, that would
This
be the first page.
this is so good. Like this is not like this is so good. This really does break down and gives a tangible activity students can
Yeah.
do to start thinking about, okay, what do I actually need to put in my essay so I get my essay? I remember when I was
Yes.
like, I applied many years ago. I don't know if it was the Gilman. I had no idea. I was just like, I
Yeah.
want to go. study a language. But if I had something like this, I think it would have helped me to know exactly what I needed to put into the
Yeah.
essay so that the reader gets, aha, this is why we need to pick this individual to go overseas and do this program and give them funding for this program. So this is really
Yeah.
good. Okay, so the next part of the sheet.
Okay, so this section of the sheet is just as important as the first one. Because what this part of the sheet is doing is helping you put your goals into what's called SMART goals.
Okay.
And so SMART goals are meant to be
I
specific,
think right here.
measurable,
Hmm.
achievable, are
Realistic,
realistic. Yep.
and
And
timely.
he is timely. Yep. I'm
Mhm.
like, wait a second. Okay. So the second you got your goals, right? You got your specific
Mhm.
goals. So you did step one. So this section of the sheet is helping you say, okay, this is my goal. When will I complete this goal? Well,
Mhm.
probably at
Mhm.
the end of the program, right? So you can put
Mhm.
the end of the program date.
Yeah.
And then the question's asking, how will I know when I've reached my goal? Right. So I think for
Mm.
some things like, okay, how will I know when I got my core science and my upper well, when it's on my transcript.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
so that one will be a little bit more obvious, but I think, the personal goal where I'm saying I want to examine how polarization is impacting other countries, how am I going to know? Well, when I'm able to articulate, when I'm able to verbally
Mhm.
articulate to the people around me what I
Mhm.
learned,
Mhm.
I think that would be a
Mhm.
sign that I did
Yeah.
what I needed to do.
You did the thing. Yeah.
Right. So you can just say, how will you know? Like, how will you know that you've done it? How do you know you actually
Mhm.
achieved what you did? The other questions are, this goal is important to me for what reason, right? So I think this is
Mhm.
really helping you apply the goal to you as a person and why it is part of your journey,
Mhm.
essentially, right?
Mhm.
Where I grew up was impacting how I wanted to experience the world and wanted to learn about the world. I mean,
Mhm.
realistically. So that's what that question is asking. It's also giving you the opportunity to think about what your strengths are. I kid you not,
Yeah.
so many undergraduate students, we lack confidence. If you feel like
Mhm.
you lack confidence,
Mhm.
it is so normal for us. I feel like especially as first
Yes.
generation college students, because we're having to
Yes.
claw our way to
Yeah.
achieve what we want to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so start thinking about what your goals are, because the scholarship applications will sometimes ask you what challenges you anticipate you're going to experience,
Yes. Uh-huh.
or what challenges you've already experienced,
Mhm.
like, what did you learn for those challenges that are going to help you better navigate being abroad?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
a lot of study abroad and marketing in the past I feel like it was a little toxic,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
the marketing was just, this is going to be the greatest time of your life.
Mhm.
Go have this fun, explore the
Yeah.
world.
Mm.
It is transformative. And also
Yeah.
it's hard. You
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just set up all of these routines,
Yep.
all this community, through going to
Mhm.
college in the first place, had to start all
Yep.
over again. And now you're going to
Mhm.
have to start all over a
Mhm.
second time.
Exactly.
Um, and
Exactly.
a lot of people don't think about the fact that that does happen. We call it the
Mhm.
plunge. When you go abroad, you have the honeymoon phase. And then when you're there for a
Yes.
little bit longer, you go through the
Yes.
plunge. And then you're just
Yes.
like, why did I do this?
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
I'm missing
Exactly.
everybody.com.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a weird
Yep.
interaction. So thinking about your strengths, thinking about the challenges you've
Mhm.
already overcome, it might be a
Mhm.
question you're asked in the scholarship, and you'll be able to articulate more concisely, like, hey, I can do
Mhm.
hard things. I have
Mhm.
already done
Mhm.
hard things. Here's what
Mhm.
I learned. So if I face this again or something different, I'm going to lean on that lesson, right?
Yes. Yes.
Or
Yes.
these resources.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and then the other section just gives you a place to write actionable steps that you can take towards achieving that
Yeah.
goal, the obstacles you'll face and how you'll navigate it. Yeah, and then you can move on to the third page,
Yeah.
which is your
Ooh.
timeline, right? That's
So
making it
good.
achievable and timeline. So what are you going to
Wow.
have to do to prepare for your
Mhm.
program and prepare for these
Mhm.
goals before departure, before you go to the program? And that might
Mhm.
be looking for your program and describing
Mhm.
how you compared the programs and why you ultimately landed on that one. Talking to your champions on campus, all of those real things that you
Yeah.
were doing, the specific actions you were
So
taking, what
good.
you want to outline,
Yeah.
and then also what might you need to do,
Oh,
while abroad. So, for example, we were talking about different academic structures, around the globe. And that might be something where you're like, okay, I know I'm going to have to adjust, right? So,
Mhm,
while abroad,
mhm.
how are you going to adjust to a different academic structure? Well, some of the
Mhm.
things that you can do is introduce yourself to your professors early on, let them know you're a study
Yes.
abroad student, where you're from,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Ask them, you know, I've never studied abroad before, let alone in this
Yes.
country.
Yeah.
How might this be different and how can I be
Yeah.
successful in your class?
Mhm.
Connecting with any tutoring resources versus turning
Yeah.
inward. I think it's common, if you're not thinking about this stuff in advance, to just start turning inward and saying in
Mhm.
your room abroad. But you really want to ask your
Yes.
professors, local students, other students on
Yes.
your program, and use those resources. So yeah, you'll have a space in there to talk about what you need to do
Mhm.
while abroad. If you're struggling, a big thing I talk about with my students is mental health. So you
Exactly.
are
Mhm.
usually enrolled in international health insurance, and you might be worried. Maybe you
Oh.
have anxiety and depression. Your
Mhm.
international health insurance on a program can help you chat with a therapist while you're there. So,
Mm.
you could talk about
So
mental health if you
good.
worried.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're worried about that and what that experience is going to look like, you could
Mhm.
say, "Hey, while
Mhm.
abroad, if I
Mhm.
notice I'm not feeling like myself, I'm really struggling. I'm
Yeah.
going to connect with my
Yeah.
program to confirm how I can use my international health insurance and book a
Mhm.
therapy appointment." Taking
Mhm.
care of yourself is so important here, even right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
where you are
Exactly.
right
In the
now,
US
and
too. Yeah.
abroad. Just because you're in another country experiencing new things doesn't mean that you're not
Mhm.
not going to go through some sadness or anger or go through anything that's just normal and human.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. And then you'll have a little section where you can talk about like what you might need to do when you get back. So yeah.
Yeah. I think this was so good. Like, you have no idea how good this is. This is going to be an episode that students are going to consume so that they can feel ready
Yeah.
after this to go and actually apply. I think what you talked about, like students turning inward
Yeah.
in the process when you don't know what's next and people are not there to support you. Maybe they could support you, but you have to ask them the right questions. And so you're not sure
Mhm.
what questions to ask. You've just given us all the tools. You're like, ask
Yeah.
this question, think about this way, or, look under this stone, do this worksheet and all that. And I think with all of this, students in universities or community colleges, whether they have the support or not, first gen students should feel like, hey, I can actually do this. So I just want to thank you so much for not coming on the show and for sharing your experience. And for our students that are listening, I want you guys to tune in to the next episode because we're just keeping the party going. We're going to keep it going so that you feel like, hey, as a first year student, I can actually go overseas and travel. We're going to be talking with students, the students that went on the trip to Durham, England, and about their process as first gen students being abroad. So as always, I want you guys to be kind to yourself because the world needs who you were made to be. Thank you so much, Natasha, for coming on the show. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day.